Batman has long been a character that's walked the delicate tightrope between being an inspiring hero and a violent, terrifying anti-hero. So much so that the question of whether Batman should ever be depicted killing someone is an online debate that's been raging for literal years. So, in the spirit of exploring some of the darker aspects of The Dark Knight, let's take a look at the top 10 most despicable things Batman has done. Coming in at number 10, we have the disfigurement of the tragic villain known only as Bootface. Batman is infamous for having a strict rule against killing any of the henchmen or villains he often fights against, but that doesn't stop him from doing some major damage, and no one shows that off clearer than Bootface. A former criminal who made the extremely unfortunate choice to try and attack Batman with a flamethrower, Bootface was permanently scarred when his flamethrower malfunctioned, and Batman kicked him in the face during the fire, grafting the imprint of Batman's boot directly on Bootface's, well, face. Bootface would return as part of a group of similarly injured villains that wanted revenge on Batman for permanently altering the course of their lives, and while it could be argued that maybe these guys shouldn't have been living a life of crime in the first place, it still is pretty messed up just how far Batman is willing to go, even if he's technically not breaking his no-killing rule. Coming in at number 9, we have the time that Batman made Robin dig his own grave. Yes, the Silver Age of comics has more than its fair share of wild moments, but few can probably compare to the cover image of Jimmy Olsen and Robin being forced to literally dig their own graves while Batman wields a Tommy gun. Now, apparently the actual story behind this cover is because Batman has lost his memory and been convinced that he's actually a member of the Mafia. While Superman still retained his sense of self, he had to pretend to go along with the Mafia act until he was finally able to return Batman's memories, but not before likely traumatizing Robin and Jimmy Olsen for life by making them dig their own graves at gunpoint. Coming in at number 8, we have the time that Batman launched a villain into space. Once again, Batman's no-killing rule was placed under a bit of stress when Batman Incorporated's Japanese division found itself under attack by the immortal supervillain Lord Deathman, a bad guy that was even able to resurrect himself from having his corpse thrown into a literal volcano. Outraged at the destruction that Deathman had caused, Batman's solution was a fate even worse than death, locking the villain within an unbreakable safe and then launching that safe into the darkness of outer space. Sure, the bad guy's not gonna die, but trapped in a small box floating endlessly for the rest of eternity? That's a bit of a yikes punishment, Batman. Coming in at number 7, we have Batman deciding to resurrect the Joker. Batman's always been in a weird moral place with how often he's let the Joker live, and the question of how many people have died because Batman refused to end his archenemy's life is an often asked one. But when the Joker was betrayed by Ra's al Ghul and left to bleed out, Batman made the hasty decision to save his nemesis with the power of the resurrecting Lazarus pits. And while resurrecting the Joker did allow Batman to stop Ra's al Ghul's bioweapon from being unleashed, the Joker soon returned to his evil and crazy ways, leaving Batman potentially to blame for any further death and destruction the Joker might cause. Coming in at number 6, we have a Golden Age Batman highlight with the time he straight up murdered a henchman with the Batplane. Batman's earliest adventures are notable for not quite having polished out the details of the character yet, with stories featuring him using guns and being a lot less uptight about the whole no-killing thing. One of the biggest examples was how Batman treated the superpowered henchmen of the villain Dr. Hugo Strange in the very first issue of his self-named series, using the Batplane's machine guns to take out a criminal truck driver before using a noose on the back of the Batplane to wrap around the neck of a genetically altered mental patient labeled as a monster. You'd think that maybe the comic would imply that Batman was just airlifting the monster somewhere else, but the narration makes it clear that nope, Batman just flat out hung a guy. The 1940s were definitely a different era. Coming in at number 5, we have Batman spying on the entire superpowered population with Brother Eye. Following an event in which Batman had his memory wiped by Zatanna and then eventually remembered it, Batman realized he would never be able to fully trust the Justice League, or any powerful metahumans for that matter. In a case of majorly overcompensating for this issue, Bruce Wayne constructed Brother Eye, an artificial intelligence housed in a secret satellite that kept tabs on every superpowered being on the planet, all without anyone knowing they were being watched. Of course, this tech would later be manipulated and abused by the villain Maxwell Lord, showing that sometimes Batman's paranoia can go a bit too far and have disastrous effects on the rest of his team. Coming in at number 4, we've got the time Batman was the worst friend ever and slept with Barbara Gordon behind Dick Grayson's back. In the alternate future where the animated series Batman Beyond takes place, Terry McGinnis eventually found out the reason that Bruce Wayne and Dick Grayson were no longer on speaking terms. Apparently, Bruce and Barbara Gordon, the girl that Dick was absolutely crazy about, had a relationship that ended in a miscarriage while Dick was out of the city dealing with personal issues. This is some incredibly heavy stuff to put in the comic follow-up to an animated children's series, and it really seems out of character for Batman to betray his protege so deeply and then handle the fallout so poorly. Whether it's iffy writing or just a really dark take on Bruce Wayne's personality, breaking the hearts of two people he claims to care about the most is a really bad look. Coming in at number 3, we've got to go with Batman keeping logs on how to defeat the rest of the Justice League. During an event known as the Tower of Babel, Ra's al Ghul manipulated his daughter into giving up Batman's secret files that he had assembled on all the Justice League members and how exactly to defeat them if they ever went rogue. And while Batman claimed this was all because of the very real possibility of the team being compromised or being controlled by an enemy force, it's kind of hard to defend your choice as being the right one when Martian Manhunter was lit on fire, the Green Lantern was made blind, and Superman was poisoned with red kryptonite. Bruce Wayne may be smart, but in the hands of a villain, his plans just might be deadly. In a similar vein, coming in at number 2, we have Batman hacking Cyborg the very first time they met. While this incident occurred in the alternate Injustice universe, the idea behind it is essentially the same as our last entry. Batman has a hard time trusting people, and sometimes that gets revealed at the exact wrong moment. With the Justice League divided as Superman becomes a villain in this universe, Batman temporarily injures Cyborg with an electrical virus, which Cyborg quickly realizes would be impossible with his new firewalls, and then makes the realization that the virus's date signature reads as the very first week that Cyborg and Batman ever met. Ice cold, Bruce. Ice cold. And finally, coming in at number 1, we have to go with Batman's treatment of Robin in the infamous series All-Star Batman and Robin. There's always been a bit of weirdness to the dynamic of Bruce Wayne teaching a child or teenager to become a violent vigilante sidekick in his quest for justice, but this alternate universe miniseries by Frank Miller definitely takes the cake. With this version of Batman constantly verbally berating Dick Grayson with some dated language that we definitely can't use on this channel, the worst moment of all comes when Batman locks Dick inside the Batcave as some form of intense training under pressure, forcing the boy to live in pure darkness and eat rats to survive. With all the awful things Batman has done over the years, torturing this young boy who just wants to be a hero might be one of the worst. That's all the time we have for today's list, but if you enjoyed it, be sure to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and let us know what sorts of videos you'd love to see next. As always, I've been Josh Busker, and I'll see you all next time.